All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and start today. All right. So one of the things today we're going to talk a little bit about the VA program and what we are able to offer. But the VA or the Veterans Health Administration itself, one of our academic or one of our missions, one of our four statutory missions, one of them is education, and so that is part of the VA's mission is to educate health professional trainees, not just dietetic interns, but other. We have residents in the medical program, we have nurses, we have all kinds of different trainees. But that is one of the missions of the VA is to educate future healthcare professionals. The history of the VA, we've started training dietetic interns as early as 1943, not specifically here at the Houston site, but one of our first sites in dietetics in the VA was in 1943. So we've been doing dietetic education for quite some time within the VA system, and we've been growing over the years and have lots of new programs as well. A little bit about Houston. So MEDVAMC, that stands for our Michael E. DeBakey VA Medical Center. So we have several training programs. This is a teaching hospital. So within our facility, there'll be lots of trainees from, I mentioned the residency program. We have medical students, we have fellows, we have residents, we have a dental residency, there's a pharmacy residency, there's nursing students, there's psychology, there's clinical pastoral education, we have speech pathology, there's social work. So there's all kinds of trainees. So you would not be alone in the education system here at our VA. The VA, back to our VA local training program. So the oldest education training program here at our facility is our residency program with Baylor College of Medicine. And then our dietetic internship is actually the second oldest training program. And we started in 1952. So since 1952, we've had an accredited dietetic internship program here in Houston. Today, I am going to specifically focus on Houston, but I did want to go ahead and make sure that you were aware that we did have 19 VA programs nationwide. So they're all over the nation in different places. They're different states, different cities, but also they have different program emphasis and different program types. So that's something to think about with your goals. Are you looking for a program that is a combined master's? Or are you looking for a program that if you already have a master's, you want the internship only? So you can kind of see how our programs are divided out. The programs on the right-hand side, that master's program, degree optional, those offer either route. You can either seek a combined program with them, or you can, if you already have a master's, you can just do the internship. So we do have our 19 programs, and they do have a variety of what they can offer. So if you're interested in looking at other places, then just to know that we do have the total of 19 programs now. We've been growing over the years. Just some pictures of Houston. I know since it's kind of different when we do virtual and you don't actually get to come to the facility. I will say I am open to tours. So if you're ever in the area or if you live close to the area and you want to come and tour the facility, let me know. I've had several already come and visit, so we can set visits up and you can come by and see the facility, see the intern room, meet some of the interns, and you can walk around and tour the facility so you can kind of see a little bit about what our Houston VA looks like and what it has to offer and how it feels when you're here. So I definitely recommend if you're able to do that, reach out to me about any visits. We are located in the Texas Medical Center in Houston. So obviously Texas Medical Center, if you're not familiar with it, it's one of the largest medical centers in the world, and it's home to all of our healthcare facilities here in Houston, from children's hospitals to trauma centers, but also the VA is also located in the medical center. Just a couple pictures of the Michael E. DeBakey if you haven't seen it before. It's a very large facility. It can be a little overwhelming when you first get here, but you can learn your way around pretty quickly. It just takes a little bit of time, but it can be overwhelming. It's actually the second largest federal building in the nation, so it's very big. It's just a couple more aerial shots of different views of the VA. We kind of sit on like a corner of 3 streets, and so there's different entrances that you could come into the facility, but just some pictures of our facility. Minimum eligibility requirements. So what does that look like? We do require United States citizenship at the time of application. That's something that we haven't been able to work through at this time, is being able to accept international students. It's something we're trying to look to see if we can in the future, but as of right now, we have to have the US citizenship to be eligible for application, but also to be eligible for the stipend. So we do have a stipend with the program, which we're going to talk a little bit more about it as we go further along. If it's a male applicant, they do have to have registered for selective services. Sometimes that's something that males do when they turn 18, or there's a certain age threshold where they're asked to register for selective services, but sometimes it gets missed and sometimes somebody maybe didn't do it. So we do have to make sure that they are registered for selective service if they're a male. A minimum of the BS in nutrition from an Ascend accredited program. So that's the minimum requirement. Minimum GPA, we have 3.25, and that is in conjunction with Texas Women's. So we affiliate our masters with Texas Women's for the combined program, and that is the requirement that they have for their admissions for graduate school. So we are using their 3.25 as our minimum GPA requirement. We're looking for individuals that have strong verbal, written communication skills, somebody that's well developed and organized, kind of able to multitask, really good with time management skills, the ability to have initiative to work independently, but also the ability to work in others in groups, because we have a little bit of both. We have a lot of independent work, but there's also some group work along the way too. And really just enjoying a fast-paced environment. It is a hospital, and sometimes you'll find that hospitals are fast-paced working environments, and then you're adding school on with it as well for those that might be doing the combined masters. So it can be definitely a fast-paced working environment or educational environment. I do have two options. And so we're one of the VA programs that offers two options. So if you already have a master's and you just need the internship, then you will have that option. If you don't have your master's and you're just graduating with your BS as of now, and the next year, the next 2 years or so, then you're looking for the combined master's. We have that as a route as well. So the combined master's, it's estimated to be about 16 months. And that includes internship and graduate school. So what that would look like for combined masters is that you would, like, typically our internship program starts in August and we finish at the end of July. And then graduate school typically starts also in August. Like we do orientation for a few weeks, and then maybe that third week is when graduate school will start. And then you kind of orient to graduate school. And then after like Labor Day, the holiday, we'll start rotations. So we kind of ease you into that. What a schedule would look like for someone in the combined program would be Mondays would be more devoted to class time. And that Monday would be typically mostly in the fall and the spring semesters. You would be in classes on Monday. But when you're out of school, say like winter break, like right now, our interns have been coming 5 days a week. So they've been coming on Mondays if it wasn't a holiday. If it was a holiday, they were off. But they've been coming on Mondays, but they're going back to school next week. So next week, they'll go back to their 4-day a week work week. If you, the way that would work too is you would have a fall semester, a spring semester, a summer semester, and then you'd have one more fall semester, and that would be the end of the program. So your internship would end at end of July, and then that last semester would be more devoted just to finishing up the masters. You would be spending, and maybe you have a couple electives left, or you have your research capstone, or you're working on your thesis. So that last semester, you would be done with your supervised practice, but you might just be wrapping up classes. And that's kind of what that 16 months would look like. If you are looking for the internship only, it's 12 months, just like the other program. Like you're gonna be together. We didn't want to separate our master students from our non-master students. So we have everybody rotating together in the rotations. So you would still the same. You would start in August, you would finish at the end of July, and then you would be done at the end of that 12 months. And so you would, because you already have your master's. And so at the end of your 12 months, then you would get the verification statement. So that way you can move on to take the RD exam. And there are some students that, this is our first year as of January 1st that students have to have the master's to sit for the RD exam. But I know I have several interns right now that have been taking more classes. So that way they're wanting to graduate sooner, get things done a little faster. So they've been taking a little bit more than the recommended classes. Recommended classes for those in the combined program, it's recommended. The program can be done, like I said, in 16 months. So you could do 9 hours a semester. So you would do 9 hours in the fall, 9 hours in the spring, 9 hours in the summer, 9 hours in the final fall. And then what that would look like in your fall, spring, and summer, you do get credit for your internship. So of those 9 hours, 3 of them is actually your internship. So then they're in internship and then they have 2 classes is what's recommended. I think a few have been taking a little bit more this year. I'm just trying to speed things along a little bit, and that's your choice if you wanted to do that, but we recommend to do the minimum of the 9. All right. And I kind of went through this. So dietetic internship only, if you're not seeking the graduate school, you do not have to enroll in TW for anything. You do have to have your master's completed before you start the program in August. So our start date is August 12th. So your master's, if you're currently finishing the master's, it has to be done before the start of our program in order to be considered. So you'll have proof of the graduate degree. You'll have to submit that to me once you have the final graduate degree provided. You can get that to me before we start. Again, it's just 12 months. And then for those students, if, since they already have their master's, they're not going to be in class on those Mondays, they just have that day off. So if graduate school is in and the combined students are in graduate classes, those students that have the master's already are just not at the hospital on Mondays. So we keep them on the same schedule and they come Tuesday through Friday. So they just kind of have an extra day. All right, now a little bit with the combined. TWU is right here in the medical center as well. So it's not too far from the facility. I would say it's about 2 miles, maybe a little less. You could walk, but it's not really, it's a long walk. And especially in Texas and Houston, it's a hot walk most of the time. So most students don't really, they're not really days like on Tuesday through Friday, you're not really needing to go to TWU. So really TWU would just be on the Monday when you have classes that are in person. Um, there's different options that you can look at for the master's. So two of the things with the degrees, you could do a master's of science in nutrition or a master's of science in exercise and sports nutrition. If you have more of an interest in sports nutrition, they do have a specific program geared more towards sports nutrition. So the master's of science in nutrition is about 36 hours. The science and exercise nutrition is actually 39 hours. There's just they have like it's like a practicum that you'll do at the end or toward the end, kind of like a mini internship. I've had one student that did the sports nutrition program and he finished the internship here. And then he had like a smaller internship that he did with Rice University in TWU. And so he did a practicum with the Rice football team for a couple months after this internship. So there's a practicum that you would have to do additional in additional for the sports program. But I know he really enjoyed the sports nutrition program. If you have more questions about the sports nutrition program, I can give you the contact information for the director of the program if you want to talk to them about anything. I don't have any students currently doing it this year, but I have had some do it in the past. The other option is there's two different ways to get the master's. You could do a capstone or you could do the thesis. So the thesis option is the research paper, looking at all the data collection and analyzing the data, trying to get the paper published. Or the research capstone is kind of similar. It's more, but it's still a pretty in-depth research paper. You're reviewing more of the literature available versus like gathering data on your own and collecting data and analyzing data on your own. You're kind of reviewing research in analytical data that's already been provided, and you're writing a research paper with that. It's still definitely time intensive, and it's not, I wouldn't say one's easier than the other. It kind of depends on your interest. We don't really steer students in either direction. It's really up to the student and what they choose to do for the options for that. And it's not something you have to know at application. And, it's sometimes something people don't really decide until that fall semester. Once they get a little bit more orientation from Texas Women's and learn a little bit more about the master's, and then try to see, if they want to pursue the thesis or not. Okay. All right. So I kind of mentioned already about the 16-month program, but definitely we have an August start and we end in July. Um, For the combined master's degree, the verification statement, and that's the piece of the verified statement saying that you've completed the program. That's what you need to be able to take the RD exam. For the students who are doing the master's, we have to wait till the master's is finished before I can provide the verification statement. So that will be one of the last things that are given to you once your master's is, you have proof of your master's completion. Couple pictures of Texas Women's. As I mentioned, they're right down the street from us, not too far. But it's a newer university within the last few years or so that they've built it. But again, Mondays will be the day for class time. We'll talk a little bit about hybrid education as we move through. One of the things I want to hit on is the VA internship benefits. Clearing up some things, there are no internship application fees for our program. So we don't have an internship application fee. There are no internship tuition fees. So you're not going to pay additional tuition for our program. So if you're in the combined masters, then you're going to have tuition for your graduate courses, but you won't have tuition for the internship. The GRE is no longer required. That used to be a requirement for our program and for TWU for graduate admissions, but it's no longer required, so you don't have to worry about the GRE. The stipend. So our stipend is a VA funded stipend, and it's not given as a lump sum up front. It's given to you as a kind of like a biweekly paycheck as you move through the program. And the stipend is only going to be given when you're in supervised practice hours. So you get paid for the hours that you're working in the internship. So Tuesday through Friday, you would get paid for those hours. If you're in the 16-month program, the stipend would just be from July to August or August to July. And then once you're done with the supervised practice, the stipend is no longer given while you're in graduate school. So while you're just attending classes, you're not being paid to attend the classes, but you will be paid while you're doing supervised practice either here at RVA or at any of our affiliate sites. All right. So you do have access for paid federal holidays that fall within your schedule, which is nice. You get those days off and you'll still get paid for them. Free parking. So our MedVMC has free parking, and then most of our, I think all of our, yeah, all of our affiliate sites have free parking. So the women, infants, and children, and also our Klein Independent School Institute or Klein Independent School District has free parking. The parking that's not free would be Texas Women. So they do have paid parking. I would say it is not cheap, but they do have a parking garage, and it's Texas Medical Center parking garages. And so they have a set fee. I think it's $12 a day. I'm not certain. Some students will do other things, they'll maybe carpool, or they find other means of transportation for going in for school when they need to go in. But that is the one place that you would have parking, would be for the university. Um, I would say hands-on training, that's really the biggest focus, is we really try to give you as much supervised practice and hands-on training as we can. The one-to-one RD preceptor ratio is really great too. There are a couple of rotations where it works better to have two interns in the rotation at the same time. And that's typically like our food service rotation. That's really what we'll do, like double, we'll have two interns. You still have individual projects and individual assignments, but it's nice to have a partner to work with during those rotations. It's a lot of it independent projects and just kind of figuring some of them out and having somebody to run ideas with, but also having someone to help you. If you're doing plate waste studies or sustainability studies, you have sanitation inspections, you kind of have somebody to help you. Um, and so that's kind of the most, I guess, like the biggest area where we would double up with interns and preceptors. Now, when you're in inpatient and outpatient and some of our other areas, that's going to be more the one-to-one preceptor with the intern. We do have a high graduate satisfaction rate. We also have a high graduate employment rate within 12 months. And so that what that looks at is, our interns getting dietetics positions within 12 months of graduation. That's one of the ascend measures that we look for. We also have high employer satisfaction rates. So we do send out surveys for our graduates 1 year after they graduate to their employers. So that way their employers can provide us feedback of how well were they prepared, were they entry level, were they above entry level, were there some things that they were missing, or are there changes we need to make to the program. So we do have high employer satisfaction rate surveys that come back. One of the benefits too for VA interns is also the non-competitive hire process within VA. So if it's something that, if you want to work for VA in the future and you want to have a career with VA, we can definitely help you find jobs in the VA. But then also you have benefits of being a trainee from VA, and a lot of times, like, it's the non-competitive hire process where you could be considered before outside people would be considered for the position because of your training and your history at the VA. One of the things too is we do have dedicated office space. And so, like, within our program, we have an intern room. It's kind of we're all together. My office is in the intern room, and then the interns each have a workstation. So they each have a workstation with computer, screens, telephone, all the equipment that you need. But it's nice to kind of have a home base, and that's where they come each day, they put their things down, and they kind of go where they're going to be in the hospital for that day or whatever rotation they're working in. But they do have, it's nice to have kind of a dedicated space. You have access to a lot of free online resources while you're here at the VA and being a VA employee. We have the electronic nutrition care process terminology manual. We have nutrition care manual, evidence analysis library. We have the asthma core curriculum. Our VA nationally purchases a lot of these subscriptions for our employees, and then we're able to have those available for all employees and students as well. So you do have a lot of access to a lot of resources, which is nice. Free access to medical journals. We have electronic or virtual libraries. We have a national virtual library, but we also have some local virtual libraries as well, where you can pull online journals that you might need. Copier and printer access, that's also free. It's free things for you as well. Training, we try to vary. So we want it to be a variety of different experiences in order for you to learn or in order for you to demonstrate your learning of the competencies. So we use different learning opportunities. So some of it might be case study presentations. Sometimes it's observation. You'll do some observation of clinicians, and then they'll be observing you. And then once you get to that point to where they're comfortable with you being on your own, then maybe you're doing some more things independently. We do some simulation. We do simulation for us would be things like integral tube placement. We do that with simulation. Checking blood glucose and blood pressures. We do that in simulation with our high fidelity mannequins in the sim lab. We try to do as much hands-on practice as we can. So that's the big thing, is like simulation is used when we need to use it, but for the most part, it's more hands-on practice. You'll get some experience with doing some quality improvement projects, possibly process improvement. That's always something we're looking at in the VA, is keeping things lean and keeping things efficient and how to improve processes. And a lot of times our interns are able to help with data collection for process improvement, or even just development of new processes. We look at waste sustainability. Where is waste within our facility, whether it be in food service or whether it be in equipment or supplies, whatever it might be. So sometimes you get to help us with looking at some of the waste and sustainability projects. Journal club presentations, we do some of those as well. And then we also have like what we call an emerging trends presentation, where you get to present on like a hot topic in nutrition, and that could vary. Like last week, I think one of our topics somebody presented on seed oils and the benefits of seed oils. We've had someone present on tart cherry. So we've done quite a bit of different, like looking at what are hot topics. It could be something that a veteran comes in and asks you about in the clinic, or maybe it's something you saw online and you're investigating a little bit further just to see if it's evidence analysis, or if there's evidence that supports the efficacy of that or not. Here's some pictures of our dietetic intern room. So they're set up kind of not necessarily like in a full cubicle where they're all kind of closed off, but there's 8 spaces for everybody. So you each have an individual space. There's some extra spaces that we have as well. We also have, refrigerator and microwave and everything available in our room. So that way, if you want to bring lunch, you have options for that. There's several things on site that you could purchase if you wanted to buy lunch or buy coffee or whatever it is you might need. There's plenty of things to make sure that you're comfortable while you're here. Program strengths. I think we have a variety of strengths. So we definitely have a lot of quality and experienced preceptors, and several have advanced practice certifications. We have a lot of advanced practice positions here within the VA that you get to learn from. Clinical assessment skills, you get a lot of experience in medical nutrition therapy and clinical. So your clinical assessment skills can really be honed on here, and we can really improve those. Outpatient counseling, whether it be individual motivational interviewing counseling, but also group teaching, being able to teach classes to a group. We really work on developing your critical thinking skills, analyzing your analysis, your decision-making skills, improving your verbal and written communication skills through reports, through presentations, through case studies, whatever it is you might be submitting. We also like I mentioned, we try to do a variety of projects, so that way it's not the same thing every single rotation, so it varies up a little bit. There's a lot of interdisciplinary care that you get to participate here, whether it be in our inpatient or outpatient. We do definitely have some interdisciplinary care meetings that you'll be able to attend and observe. Advanced technology is a benefit for us as well. We do have electronic health record. We've had electronic health record for quite some time. I know they're still talking about transitioning to a new one, but I don't think that'll happen before any of you would start here for the program. So that's something they're always looking at, is improving the electronic health record, but we do have a state-of-the-art electronic health record. One of the things I think is an advantage as well is the centralized supervised practice locations. A lot of our rotations take place here at our facility, not all of them, but a lot of them. But that allows the student to really get comfortable with our facility, our policies. You're comfortable with our computer access, the software that we use, versus having to go to multiple different places where you're having to learn new policies, new facility, new electronic health record, and new ways of doing things. And so students kind of get a little bit more comfortable with our facility, and they're able to get comfortable there. So where it makes it a little easier as they move through each rotation of really focusing on learning the information from the rotation versus some of the semantics that you have when you're trying to relocate to a new place. We do have some offsite rotations, which we'll talk about, but the majority we do take place here at RBA. We do have 100% one-year RD exam pass rates, and we obviously we have increased job opportunities after graduation with our non-competitive hire that's available for our interns. Some of the unique opportunities, we have a spinal cord injury inpatient unit. We offer transplant, and that's kidney, liver, and hearts. We have long-term care here in the facility. We also have nutrition support. We have home-based care. where you actually go to the veterans home to see them versus them coming here to the facility, or they're not, they're in more of an outpatient role, and you go with the dietitian to the patient's house. We have a virtual care. So we have a VVC system, which is our video or veteran video connect. And so sometimes you'll do video appointments with patients. Hospital food service is conducted here. We go outside for school food service, and then we have outpatient care here. We also do some specialty outpatient rotations with getting experience with the oncology dietitian, the renal dietitian, the women's health dietitian, and then our WIC rotation, which is women, infants, and children. We do that with the city of Houston, and that would be obviously outside of here, but that's with the city, the greater city of Houston. So you'll get to travel over a little bit just to different places throughout that rotation. I touched a little bit on distance education. So with Texas Women's, some of the classes are, I would say that some of the classes might be in person, some of the classes might be online asynchronous, but then sometimes you might have more of like a VTEL class. So perhaps you might go on site to Houston, but the class is being taught from Denton and VTEL to Houston, or vice versa. You might be in a class in Houston and it's actually being VTEL to Denton. So sometimes they'll use some distance education with that, with their classes. So not all the classes are going to be face to face, but not all of them are going to be online. Some of them will be VTEL. So it just kind of varies each semester and what that looks like. For our facility with distance education, how we use that, we really, the students are on site for for really all of the rotations with us. So they're going to be here in the facility. There are some rotations where your preceptor might be located at a different like clinic, or maybe they might have like scheduled telework days where they might be working from home and you might be here at the facility. So that's considered a distance education component. And you're communicating by, you see patients video with the video connect, or you're communicating with them on Teams, and you're kind of working with them that way if they're not on site. And so that will happen in a couple of the rotations. We normally will see that with our specialty clinic rotations, with renal, with maybe with liver transplant. Usually I think the most that it's used would be in our weight management program. You work with one of our dietitians that's at one of the CBOCs, or several of the CBOCs, which we call it. Those are our community outpatient centers. And so we have several clinics throughout the area, but we also have one in Beaumont and with Lufkin. So sometimes you might work with some of those dietitians that are out of the city, like Beaumont or Lufkin, and that would be all through video. It's not something that you would do daily on, like, say, like working with the preceptor from Beaumont. It might be something that you teach a class of hers virtually and she's observing you. Typically when we use the video connect, you're seeing patients, but the preceptor is also in the video as well, watching or observing and there to help if you need anything. Or if you're doing meetings, that's usually on Teams with your preceptor. So it's, real-time communication with them. But that's how we would use our distance education. But for the most part, there's not like a lot of you working from home or teleworking, or you being at home and seeing patients while you're at your house. You would be still here in the facility. And I kind of touched on the TWU distance education piece and how they utilize that. All right. So what our program calendar would look like for next year, the start date would be Monday, August 12th. And so that's why I say your master's has to be completed before then. The same thing for your DPD. Your DPD needs to be completed before that, your undergraduate DPD. Everything needs to be completed before you would start August 12th. We have about a 3-week orientation. So the first 3 weeks will be spent looking at orientation to the VA, to our hospital, to our nutrition and food service department, and then to the internship, but also just getting you oriented to our software, our electronic health record. What we use for food service and inpatient is we have Computrition. So we kind of do some trainings on those to get you a little bit familiar with those before you go into rotations. So typically rotations usually begin after Labor Day. The orientation in the summer in August, the first 2 weeks would be a 5-day-a-week orientation. So you'd be here Monday through Friday for the first 2 weeks. That third week is when school typically starts. So for those that might be starting school and starting the master's, then you'd be in class on Monday, and then you'd be here Tuesday through Friday. And so that one might look a little different. And then we'll start rotations after Labor Day. Your rotations will go from September 2nd through June 27th. And then after that is when staff experience would begin. Staff experience is the final rotation, and it's kind of like the culmination of the internship itself. And it gives the intern the opportunity to demonstrate entry level, that they're entry level competent, they're ready to graduate, and they're ready to go and seek their first job. So that's a 4-week experience, and all the interns will do that at the same time. And it's at the end for everybody. And that would be conducted either in like a medical nutrition therapy rotation. So it would either be an inpatient or outpatient. And that's something that interns get to have, kind of get to pick their top 5 choices of where they would want to go. And then we try to place everybody in at least their top first or second choice. And then graduation is, the last thing as well. And that would be like July 25th. And that would be graduation for the supervised practice piece. So we'll do a graduation ceremony as you would complete your supervised practice internship. And then you're done if you have your master's, or you might continue on with finishing your master's that next semester. Okay. And this is just a draft timeline for Texas Women's for 2024, 2025. You can kind of see some of their start dates. I have this on my website as well if you want to look a little further in detail. But it would be starting August 26th and then ending completion of master's. If you did 16 months, it'd be about December 13th, 2025 would be kind of the end date, with our internship ending kind of in that I would say July 25th. All right. Selection criteria, obviously, just like our minimum eligibility, we're looking for the US citizenship at application. We really just do a holistic approach to the application review, looking for well-rounded applicants. We're looking at everything. We're looking at your letters of reference. We're looking at your personal statement. We're looking at, your undergraduate involvement or master's involvement, any leadership involvement that you have, volunteer experience, work experience, whatever it may be. We're kind of just reviewing everything. We do have interviews. We do conduct video interviews. They're all going to be by video. We won't do any in person. So even if you live locally, we just do everything by video just to kind of keep it fair for everyone. And that's a performance-based interview, and that's looking at questions. These are kind of specific example questions where we may ask you, tell us about a time where you had to manage multiple tasks, or tell us about a time. So we want to get like situational experiences from you. I will send out a resource for performance-based interviewing types of questions, so you can kind of get an idea of what the questions would look like, and just so you can learn a little bit about it before we do the interviews. They're scheduled interviews, so you'll get an email with some proposed dates and times. We do them Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. We don't do them on the weekends or in the evenings, so we usually do them during work hours or daytime hours. But we'll send out some times, and then you can kind of pick and choose what works with your school schedule, your work schedule, whatever it might be. But they're not like a surprise interview or anything. It's going to be scheduled. You'll know about it in advance, so that way you can have some time to prep. GPA minimum 3.25, no GRE. We took that off, so that's not required anymore. It doesn't really do anything extra. And some people are like, should I still take it? I'm like, no. I was like, there's really not a need for it. We're not going to look at it, even if you took it and submitted it. It's not really a part of our application anymore. But you do have to have the BS in nutrition. So that's the big piece. And then if you have the master's, or if you're just doing the internship, you definitely have to have the proof of the master's. So why do you want to apply to our facility? So we would love to have you all apply. But some of the benefits would obviously keeping a little bit more money in your pocket with the benefit of the stipend. It's $15 an hour, and that just increased this last year, the 2023-2024 class. So it went up from, I think it was like $9.80, and now it's $15 an hour. So that's really nice. It is a pre-tax amount. So it works just like a paycheck, and you would have taxes taken out. Like I said, it's not a lump sum, so you're not going to get it all up front. You would get it as a paycheck every like biweekly. And that works well because you get paid for the time that you've worked. And so if something were to happen and you had to resign, or you weren't able to finish the internship, you weren't going to owe money back, because you're only going to get paid for the time that you've actually worked. Texas Women's has affordable tuition. That's always a plus too. I do encourage anyone who's out of state, if you have out of state residency, not Texas residency, definitely consider applying for their scholarships, because if you're able to get a minimum $1,000 competitive scholarship from TWU, they will waive your out of state tuition, and you can pay in-state tuition. And so that's huge that that's offered. And so definitely take advantage of it and apply for their scholarships. There's several scholarships. The thing with their scholarships, though, is the applications for most of them, I think all of them really, are March 1st. So that's going to be before you find out where you've matched. So I do recommend students, it's not a requirement that you apply to TWU before February 15th when you're applying for our program. But I definitely recommend, if you want to be considered for scholarships, to apply early, so that way you can get admitted to TWU and be considered for some of their university scholarships. If you didn't do that, there's always options for financial aid as well, if you were going to apply for financial aid. but it's nice to try to apply for the scholarships as well. So consider that. It's not a difficult application for graduate school, especially now that they took the GRE piece out. So it's not like it's not too stressful. I think it's $50 for the application fee. So definitely something to consider if you want to be considered for the scholarships and hopefully waiving out of state tuition. And then also our free parking at the VA. It's like, it's always nice, and affiliate rotations. So it's like, I can't do much about the parking at TWU. I was like, but the other parking is free. So in summary, obviously we want you to choose VA so you can help serve the nation's heroes. And we get a lot of, you get a lot of opportunity to work with our veterans, which is really great to be able to give back to them. It's a challenging internship. So if you want to be challenged, if you want to work for the largest and best integrated system, if you want individualized attention with precepting and internship directors, and also just to be we say wealthiest intern in town, because you do get that stipend. So it's nice to have that little extra money in your pocket. And if you like to have fun, obviously it's busy, there's a lot going on, but they also have a lot of fun as well. One of the things to clear up is that VA employment after graduation is not a requirement. And sometimes people think, oh, I do an internship and they're paying me for a year, I have to work for them for a certain amount of time. That's not a requirement, although we would love for your interns to want to work for the VA. And for those that do want to work for the VA, we definitely try to help you find jobs within VA, but it's not a requirement that you give back and work for the VA. Just a little bit about the VA for employment. It is the largest employer of dietitians. We have over 171 hospitals and over 1,100 clinics. There's a lot of national opportunities for VA employment after graduation if you're interested. It's excellent growth for career and leadership and advancement opportunities, definitely competitive salaries, competitive starting rate salaries, healthcare benefits. We have 401k benefits, retirements, and all the things that come with that. So it's a great place to consider for employment, but there is no requirement for you to work for the VA afterwards. I just want to clear that up because I hear that a lot. And there's also, we're separate. So this is the Veterans Fair or Veterans Health Administration. So it's separate from active duty military. So that's a confusion sometimes is people think that you have to join the military when you're at the VA internship, but there are military internships where you do join the military and you do give back to service. But this is the Veterans Health Administration. So it's actually post VA. So it's or post military. So there is no requirement for that. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that as well, because I hear that a little bit sometimes. Just a couple of websites for you to take into consideration. Visit our website. If you haven't been to the Houston Dietetic Internship website, check out the Texas Women's University website so you can learn a little bit more about their master's program. I'm sure you've already kind of seen the Academy 5 steps to become the registered dietitian since you're on this step now. Be familiar or familiarize yourself with the processes for applying. You've got to the 2-level process. So there's DICAS and the DICAS application, but then you're going to have the computerized matching piece where you have to register in D&D Digital. And I'm sure you maybe have gotten information about that, but those are the 2 things that you have to register and apply for this computer matching application process. So be familiar with both of those so you don't want to miss any of those deadlines. Important dates for us, it's February 15th. That's when the applications are due. March 1st is the scholarship applications for TWU. That's when those would be due. And then for us, our start date, a date to consider would be that Monday, August 12th. You want to make sure that that's in line with your plans for completion of your current programs that you might be in to make sure that doesn't interfere with any completion dates. The one thing with this then is you can't be enrolled in 2 programs at the same time. So you have to have graduated and completed one program before you join the internship. And so that's definitely a piece that they look for, is to make sure that students have completed the DPD requirements before they start the internship. So you're not simultaneously enrolled in 2 programs. Okay. You can always reach out to me for any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer anything. Email works best, but phone is also an option too. So definitely consider that. And if you have questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer and help guide in any way that I can. And I'm going to take this off. So I'm going to open it up for questions. We'll do some general questions, and then some of our preceptors will be joining us. And then we'll introduce some preceptors and give you an opportunity to ask questions for preceptors. But any questions for me, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can also type in the chat if that works better. Either way.
I have a question.
Sure.
What is the farthest that an intern would have to drive for one of the affiliate sites?
So Klein is our farthest. That's it's in spring, so it's kind of it depends on where you live. From the VA, I would say it's probably like a 40-minute drive. And if some of the interns, when they get on, they can maybe confirm because we have interns that live in different parts of the city. So it just depends on where you live and how far that would be from there. But that would be the farthest. So Klein Independent School District, they have a district office that you would report to. And that's kind of like home base. But then when you go out to the schools, so the schools might be all over the district, you ride along with the supervisor or one of the dietitians. So you usually ride along in one of their cars and go to the schools. So like you would just kind of go to the main administrative building. But I would say with traffic, it just depends as well. But that's a good question. That's would be the farthest. Our City of Houston WIC, their main administrative office is kind of east downtown or east of downtown. It's not too far from the VA. But then they have WIC clinics all over Houston. And so people go to different clinics when they're in certain rotations, or they may have you go to the Lactation Foundation, which is also located in Houston. So that one I would say I would say Klein would be the farthest.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to look at some in the chat. So one is I plan to graduate in the fall 2024 with a bachelor's. So will the application process be different? It will be different. We don't know what the new application process is going to look like yet. So stay tuned for that. It will be a little bit different because supposedly this is the last year that they're going to utilize the computer matching system. It'll still be in DICAS. So DICAS is still going to be the platform on where you apply, but the dates might look different. There's not going to be a matching system. So those things are going to be changing, and we don't really have the answers to that. Ascend, which is our accrediting body, are kind of working through that process now. So even us as dietetic internship directors, we don't really know the new process yet. So hopefully we'll know soon. But it will look different as the matching piece will not be a component, but you would still utilize DICAS. And I'll take one more question in here. So do you help with securing housing if moving from out of state, or do you provide type of statement for interns? I don't get involved with securing the housing. What do you mean with the statement? Do you want like a statement of employment to show like your income? Because I do provide those for students that ask. Sometimes they'll have an apartment that needs to know. Yeah. So if they have an apartment that needs to know how much they're going to have for their monthly income, then I'll provide a statement indicating that for sure. Sometimes like what we'll do is we'll send out, like as soon as we have our matched class and we know who's matching, we'll send out the list of the interns with their email addresses. And sometimes people will partner up and maybe get a roommate from that. Maybe they decide to share an apartment together. Sometimes we have people more from the area that might be living at home or something. So it can vary. But as soon as we have our matched class, we'll try to send out communication information so that way you can start talking to one another to see if anybody does want a room. TW does not have any housing. The other thing too is like our current intern class will put together a document with housing or apartments or different places that they previously lived. So that way you can try to look to see where some of the other interns might have lived in the past. I'm going to go to some of the hands raised. So I have Laura. Do you have your hand raised?
Hi, yes, thank you, Christy. So I had two questions actually.
Okay.
So you mentioned the video interviews. Do you know roughly when people will find out if they get an interview, or when those like are usually scheduled for?
We usually start scheduling them. We kind of do them like the month of March. So I try to get emails out as soon as we can. Sometimes it takes a while to get them all planned, and so not everybody gets their thing on the same day. So we try to get them all planned, but typically the month of March is when we'll be doing interviews.
Okay, and I guess because I'm working like full time right now, and so I have to usually request off like about like minimum 2 weeks beforehand. Do you know? I guess is it like what's the timeline? Like we get told of when our
Well,
time is
we'll work
scheduled?
with you. We'll work with you and give time for that. So if there's a circumstance like that, I mean, we've had, yeah, we'll work with students and see what works best.
Okay.
Definitely.
And
We've
my
had
second,
students working that, had to do it after, or, maybe they had to do it. And
yeah.
so, yeah, we definitely will work with you.
Okay. And then my second question was I saw on y'all's website that interns are eligible for the VA health insurance. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you do need health insurance or you are interested, the VA interns can do health insurance. Now, you do have to pay for it. So it would be part like it just employees, it's just like an employee pays for it. So you do pay for it, but it is an option if you're seeking health insurance for interns.
Okay, cool. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
It's a new thing. It just within the last maybe 2 years, but yes, it's a nice nice to offer for sure.
Okay, perfect.
All right, I'm going to take one more question and then we're going to introduce some of our preceptors and then we'll go back to questions. But I'm going to take one from Ravana. Ravana has her hand up.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. So I was actually curious, I wasn't sure if you had already mentioned this, but if we're doing the master's combined with the dietetic internship, are we submitting a separate application to Texas Women's University as well?
It is separate. So
Okay.
so we affiliate with Texas Women's, but the application for their graduate school will be separate. So I like there's not a way to combine it. So like you apply for our internship and then you would go into the TW website and apply for their master's program.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yes, we're going to come back to questions. So if you have one in the chat, we'll get back to those. But I do want to go ahead and introduce some of our preceptors. I see several have started to join. So we'll get some of those on. So let me start with Amanda Slover.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Slover. I'm the Associate Chief for Clinical Nutrition. So basically kind of in charge of the entire clinical section. I did my undergraduate at Baylor, and then I was an intern here many years ago now. Crazy to believe. But I'm one of the primary preceptors for the management rotation. So we do a project-based rotation with our managers that you get to see the side of clinical nutrition supervision, some of the quality management and accreditation things that go into that.
Thank you. All right. Any other preceptors? See, Dr. Feeney's joined us.
Hi, I'm Kim Feeney. I am our women's health dietitian. I did my internship through the military Baylor program and served in the Army. And then after working some other jobs, have now transitioned to the VA. And I don't have an official preceptor role yet, but I do help out when some of the other rotations need some patients to be seen. Interns will come hang out with me for a day or so.
Thank you. All right. Any other preceptors that have joined us that want to introduce themselves? We'll see who Jody. I see Jody's on.
Hello, I'm Jody. I'm one of the inpatient clinical dietitians.
Okay, let's see. And if Judy, I see Judy's on as well.
Hi, I'm Judy Brown. I'm one of the inpatient dietitians. I primarily do float coverage, and so I'm the substitute teacher, but I'm also a member of the nutrition support team, and I will probably get to meet with some of y'all via that at some point.
Yes. All right, we have several on. So does anyone have any specific questions maybe directed toward preceptors or what they would like to ask of a preceptor?
I have a question.
Mhm.
I was wondering, what are qualities that standout interns have shown when they've been working with you guys? Like, how do you remember some of your interns?
I would say for me, like I look for engagement of the interns, but I also look for interns that ask questions. But when they ask those questions, like they've come prepared. So they don't just come and they don't, they haven't researched it. And then when they retain that information and they come back to you like the next day or the following day and they've retained it and learned that, like I think that's really impressive as a student.
Any other feedback for that question? Yeah, I think it'll vary, really what preceptors look for, but definitely, like as Amanda kind of mentioned, is just being prepared, the openness to learn, willingness to learn. That's open mind to learning new things, and one of the things too is making sure interns know that you're not going to know everything, and it's okay to get something wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes because that's how you're going to learn. And I know sometimes that's hard. It's like, oh, missing or just not getting something or just having a hard time with something, but it's going to happen and that's okay. It's like you're here for the internship so that way you can learn. So that's always hard is like, learning to be okay with not knowing everything. Anything else? Any other questions for preceptors?
I have one question.
Yeah.
So I guess specifically for the inpatient dietitian, I'm really curious, does the VA utilize PES statements? I know some different medical facilities use different statements.
Ooh, I'm gonna defer to Jody.
Okay, yes, we do PES statements. We practice under the nutrition care process.
And we also have a national subscription to all the manuals and all the resources that will help you that you'll have access to. So don't think you have to memorize them all.
Yeah, we'll do some training during orientation. So orientation will include, there'll be a like nutrition care process class. We're just trying to get everybody on the same page because we know, people are coming from all different universities and, different completions of programs. Maybe they've been out for a couple of years or something. So we'll try to do a review of nutrition care process, nutrition assessment, nutrition focused physical exam, malnutrition screening. So we look at those things, but we definitely do use the NCP terminology. That is something we definitely use.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, so I will say, there is one question I just found in the chat box. Whether you're doing the sports or general nutrition master's program, does everyone do the same internship? Yes. The internship it's VA internship, so it'll be the same. It's just the education component. If you choose sports nutrition versus just master's of science in nutrition, that would be different classes that you might take in regards to like your electives. Like there may be some more sports nutrition focused classes that you would take that the master's of science nutrition students wouldn't take. But your internship would be the same. Now, the practicum, they do have that practicum. That might be different. So like some people might go to Rice or some people might work with Houston Ballet. So there's different places that you might go for your practicum. And that would be dependent on what they have availability. But that would be your TWU practicum. So that's separate from your VA internship. Any other questions for preceptors? We have any new preceptors join that I missed? Like sometimes it's hard to keep track. That's interesting. All right. Well, great questions. I'm going to go back to the chat box because I know there was a few I didn't get to, and one was specifically about Houston and and transportation. So yes, let me get to that one for sure. One of the questions is, I know you said there's free parking, but how good is public transportation in the area, and can we get by without a car? It would be challenging to get by without a car. We do, obviously, we're a large metropolitan city. We do have transportation, but I would say it would you can get like Metro, students can get kind of like a lower, I guess, subscription rate for Metro to where you could utilize Metro, but it would be difficult for getting to places like our Klein Independent School District, which was out north in the suburbs. If you're like, some people will maybe live closer to the VA and they walk to the VA, but then, with WIC and Klein, those would be times where you wouldn't be able to walk and you would have to have transportation. So I think it would be a little challenging to not have a car. First, that would be something to consider. I know somebody had commented as well that public transport is not reliable, not as extensive. It's just a huge, the way the city's kind of laid out is just kind of, I don't know why our transportation is the way it is, but a car definitely would be helpful. Okay. Anything I missed on that? So sports in general, here we go. I think we covered. Any other questions y'all can think of?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm also applying to the VA of Colorado internship, and they're requiring me to fill out a FERPA waiver so that way my school can be shared with the VA. Am I going to have to do the same thing for my application with you guys?
No, because when you order the transcript from the university, that's you saying that you're allowing us to see your transcript.
Okay, cool. I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure if like in the process internship y'all needed my school.
No, we your school information. So when your transcript gets shared, so you're sharing you're going to share your intent to complete if you haven't finished your DPD, and that'll come from you're sharing that from your DPD director and yourself, and then your transcripts, you're requesting your university to send the transcripts, and that is allowing you to share those with us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And then whenever, if you were to get matched and you were to get selected, we would have you send a final transcript to us. And so then that would be, again, you would order that from your university and have that sent to me before the start of the program. And that would be you allowing, the transcript to be sent to me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. And we have a hand raised for, let's see, I turn this chat off. Let's see. Oh, okay. Isabella?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to apologize. I think my microphone was off when I was switching from my phone to my laptop. And I'm so sorry. I think there was a bunch of like noise and it like glitched. So I wanted to
Oh,
apologize.
that's it. That's okay.
But I was wondering, for your guys' like internship and everything, like with like the exercise health, and I was just now able to join. I had an appointment earlier, so I apologize if this was already answered, but is like the is it separate? Like would we do our masters first and then do our internship, or is the internship plus like your master program going on at the same time?
They're going on at the same time. So you would simultaneously be in both programs at the same time. As we were saying earlier, so class time is devoted for Monday, and then Tuesday through Friday would be supervised practice times. So the majority of the classes are set where they're going to, if they're in person, they're going to be on a Monday, or they're going to be, you may have some online asynchronous classes that you can do virtually and complete on your own time. But Mondays is designed to be kind of like class time for students.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And I apologize I couldn't have been here earlier.
Oh, no worries. I have it recorded and I can share a recording with you as well.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And we have another hand raised. Let me check who that is. Ariana?
Hi, so for the rotations, you say they happen Tuesday through Fridays. Like, how long do those rotations last throughout the days? Like an all-day thing?
It is an all day. Our program is considered is full time. So it's definitely all day. It's an 8-hour day. We try not to have you work in more than 8 hours. And the goal is it's 8.5 because you get 30 minutes for lunch. So it's an 8.5-hour day. Typically our interns, it'll vary per rotation because you're going to work the tour of duty of your preceptor. So preceptors work a variety of different times. So some do 8 to 4:30, some do 7:30 to 4. We have some that do 7 to 3:30. So it just kind of depends on the rotation that you're in, and you would work that preceptor's rotation, but no more than an 8-hour shift.
Okay, thank you.
And let's see who else we have. What about Laura? Laura, do you have a question again? Or is it from earlier?
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. I do have another question.
Yeah.
So I was looking into like a different internship, and I noticed that they have something called prior learning credits. Essentially, if you have a certain amount of paid work experience in a certain area of nutrition, you can petition to I guess waive like a certain number of like weeks of rotation. And I was wondering if the Beaky internship also does that.
We do not. So we don't take prior experience for subbing out hours. So that's not something that we do have.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, because I think some of our interns are going to be joining us in a second, if some of them aren't already on yet. But feel free, keep using the chat if you have additional questions. But what I'll do is I see some of them are on. Thanks, preceptors who were able to attend. If you want to stay on, you're more than welcome to stay on, or if you got to run, then that's okay as well. But I do have some of our interns are on, so we'll start introducing some students, and then maybe you could talk to some of our interns currently in the program. I see Kenisha's on, if Kenisha wants to say hi.
Hi, was there like a introduction or something you wanted me to
Yeah,
say?
you can just say your name and maybe where you did undergrad and.
Okay, sounds good. So, hello everybody. My name is Kenisha Chisholm. One of the dietetic interns. I attended TWU for my master's, and I got that in nutrition there. And then Texas Women's University for somebody who may not know what that is. And then for undergrad, I did my bachelor's at Kent State University in Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you. Yeah, so Kenisha is one of our, this is the first year that we have I guess, changed our process to where we have the two options, where we have combined program and we have the master's program. So she can answer any questions for those students that maybe already have a master's and they're just going to do the internship if you had specific questions for that. But we have Nadia on. Nadia, did you want to say hi?
Hey everybody, my name is Nadia Hanley. I went to UH to do a post-bac for my Ascend, and I worked at Michael E. DeBakey previously in their kitchen.
Thank you. We have Mackenzie.
Oh, my camera's all the way up there. Hey. Hi, I'm Mackenzie. I went to the University of Alabama. Wait, what else were we saying?
Whatever you want. That's it. That's whatever you want to share.
Okay. I went to Alabama, Roll Tide.
Yay. And we have a Liz. Liz is on with us.
Yeah, hi y'all. I'm Liz. I just finished up at Texas A&M and now here at TW and at the VA with everyone.
Yeah. And let's see, anybody else join ahead? Liz, Kenesha, Nadi. Okay. All right. Well, do y'all have any specific questions for interns that are currently kind of in the program?
I do. I'm
Go
just
ahead.
curious if there's anything that you guys had wished that you'd known before you started your internship. If there's any wisdom that you would like to depart upon us, that would be awesome.
Anybody think of anything? That's a good question. It's like things you wish you would have known.
I think it's
Go for it.
I was just gonna say that I think it's important to not put so much pressure on yourself to feel like you have to know everything from school. Mackenzie said she was gonna say the same thing. Like you just think of it kind of as on the job training. Like if you've held a job in the past, you know, like you go in kind of nervous, but like 3 weeks in, you're like, okay, I got this. It's similar to that. Like what you learned in school it'll come up in your mind. It's there somewhere and you'll dig it out.
And sometimes it's new information that maybe you didn't learn in undergrad, or sometimes we always say you learn the kind of by the book in undergrad and what the textbook says that you do, but then when you're on the job, you know, it's like, what do you actually do in the real world? Well, it's like, yes, that's what the textbook teaches you, but this is how we really do it. And so you might learn some of that in your internship as you see that what's real practice versus textbook explanation practice.
Hi, I have one question.
Sure.
How have the rotations that you guys have been going through influenced your future career goals or how you envision your future career? Since now you're kind of, getting into, the nooks and crannies of the, of what being a dietitian is.
I'll go ahead and start with this one. Okay, so for me, I'm a person who kind of likes to engage with people and have the face-to-face interaction. So a lot of the rotations I've done so far have been outpatient, where the patients come in to the clinic and you get to spend more time with them, face-to-face doing education and stuff like that. So I've really enjoyed that just because you get that one-on-one time. Um, and then there was there's a few rotations you get to do in transplant. And so being able to watch those in oncology has really kind of opened my eyes a little bit. I was interested in oncology already, but I think actually doing the rotation really kind of made me see like, oh, I think I could, see myself doing this as like a advanced practice one day. And then as far as transplant, I kind of was just open. I didn't have any really expectations for it. I was curious, but I just was open to it. But I think a lot of the specialties have really piqued my interest. So.
Yeah, and I think kind of on top of that, going into this as open-minded as you can. Everyone that I talked to beforehand told me that, and I just finished my 16 weeks in inpatient. And I've just started my first week in the admin rotation, and I knew I would enjoy inpatient, but I think I enjoyed it more than I ever expected, and different parts of it stuck out. And I think you really never know until you get into it, and so going into it as open as you can is the best thing you can do because you'll probably change your mind.
Thank you.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So how do you guys work out to balance like between your school life and then the rotations y'all do during the same week?
I guess I can talk about this just because I remember talking to Christy about this in my quarterly, but I think it's really important to set apart 1 or 2 days that you know that you're not going to touch anything involving school or internship just to really keep that sense of normalcy because it is really easy to get wrapped up in graduate school and the internship. Like there's always something you can be doing, it feels like, but setting aside like a Saturday and a Sunday, like I'm going to spend this time with my family, with my friends, for myself. I think it sets your week up better just because you have those 2 days to relax. You feel more energized, and you know during the week that you're going to have time to get stuff done. So,
I think it's definitely a balanced learning, and that first semester is kind of when people kind of spend time figuring out what works for them. How do you organize both? How do you manage both and then not forget about yourself and self-care and all the things you need to do? And I'm always asking them if they're getting enough sleep. Are you sleeping enough? Making sure that, because you're not getting enough sleep affects your ability to learn, your ability to process things and participate while you're here, but also your immunity, and you get more likely to have colds and get sick and all the things. And so sleep is very important, but stress management and taking care of yourself is very important as well. And so those are things that first semester you kind of learn, you got to figure out the balance. It's like, okay, how am I going to manage this? And the good thing is you have a peer support of each other. And like, there's like 7, and we have up to 8 interns, but right now this year we have 7, but they have, the 7 of them are able to kind of help each other and like give advice of this is how I did this, or this is what I did in this area. And so that kind of helps them out. But then they just have the built-in peer support, which is nice. I think that's helpful. You're not kind of all by yourself, and there's 6 other people going through the same stressors that you're going through. And so you kind of talk about it with one another and get tips from one another and just have, just some stress relief with one another. Now, there's a good question in the chat. So what do you think set you apart in your applications to be chosen for the program? It's a good question. Anybody have any ideas?
I feel like that's something you need to answer.
I know. I can tell you, I mean, everyone who's here had great applications. They had well-rounded applications and good interviews. And so that it's kind of a combination. Because the interview is a portion of your score, but also your application and just everything, your reference letters. I always talk about reference letters are important when you're thinking about who you're going to pick to write those letters of reference. It needs to be someone who knows you and that can speak on your behalf. Someone that, can really talk a little bit more about you and tell us about you and how you're going to perform, using your personal statement to really tell us more about yourself than what's on the application. So application is kind of like everybody's application has the same information that you have to put, but using that personal statement to tell us, what are your goals? How is our program going to help you meet those goals? Like what is it that our program is going to provide for you, or what do you like about our program? And so in that personal statement, just giving us a chance to learn more about you, and taking, the interviews. I don't know how y'all felt about the video interviews. I know they're not too long ago. If you even remembered them, or did you black them out a little bit? But the interviews are important too. They're short. They're at max we allow for 30 minutes. I'd say they're maybe 20 minutes. We have about anywhere between 6 to 8 questions, and it's not like an hour-long interview. We try to keep them a little bit more brief than that. I know it's stressful. Everybody stresses out with any kind of interview. I mean, even if you've interviewed a million times, you still get stressed about interviews. So I know it can be stressful, but just preparing and looking over I'm going to send you a resource for performance-based interviewing so you can kind of get an idea of what the questions might look like and maybe practice. If you have a university that has a career center where they have people that will do mock interviews with you, I would take advantage of that. Do some practice interview, or maybe just with family or friends, do practice interviews with family and friends. I don't know. What did y'all do to kind of prepare for interviews? Do y'all remember?
I know I went through those questions that Christy gave, and I would just kind of like bullet point write because I'm not a person that can, I like to write things out. That's a big way I learn. So that really helped me just kind of formulate thoughts and good experiences with that. Because I think I was like, I know I can answer this question, but I want to make sure I can support that. As well as I think the mock interview that I did at my campus was really helpful. It honestly just got a lot of the jitters out. And I just was able to just be like, okay, no, you know how to do this. They give you some great feedback and just made me feel comfortable going and doing it.
Yeah, I would agree with Liz. I definitely used the questions that Christy sent. And then also I utilized, because I was in school at the time, I utilized the Writing Center to edit my paper and get their feedback. And I submitted it like 3 different times to different people to get different perspectives from different people on that. And then also I would say I used the questions that are in the application. I kind of made my essay like everybody's essay is, you may send it to different places, but customize it to that specific place that you're applying to. And so with the questions that are asked when you apply, I made sure that each question was asked, answered. Don't skip it. If it says the certain word limit, like 1,000 or whatever it is, make sure you follow it to the T. If you have to edit stuff to make sure you get it to what they asked for, do that. Don't go above it. Don't go below it. And then I also made sure that I addressed every single question and I kind of did like a paragraph or so about each one and really just was really honest. I think for me in the past, I was always like uncomfortable with being vulnerable and sharing certain things in terms of my why for doing it and why I'm here. But I think, like Christy said, really personalizing that customizing that personal statement because they can't get a picture of who you are just from your application. So I think I don't know, we don't know what got us picked, but I would say that's what I did.
And so we have a selection committee. So there's a number of us that are looking at applications. And so I mean, it varies each year, anywhere from six, maybe 5 to 6 to 8 people that are looking at the applications and scoring everything. And so when we have a meeting and we discuss everybody, so it's a group, and it's mostly preceptors and staff here on site that participate. And so it's a process, but it's definitely we review everything and we go through every piece of the application. So I always say, everyone's always like, "What's the most important?" I'm like, "All of it." Like all of it's important, really. I mean, we try to be as holistic as possible so that way, every student's different. And, some people maybe didn't work in college, they had more time for volunteer experiences. Some people have to work full time in college and don't have enough, don't have the opportunities for volunteer experiences. So we take all of this into consideration. We take into consideration what else the student was doing. Were they a college athlete? What is it that was happening? And so we take all those things into consideration when when we're reviewing applications. Because not every application is going to be exactly, the same scenario and what the student experienced. Isabella, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, I think you kind of answered it, just like how is like the community and how do you guys get along? Like, is there a lot of like communication between like the other interns, or is it just like how do you guys feel that like the community is and just like your overall like work support, if that makes sense? That might be a really like dumb question, but I don't know, it's just kind of curious.
Good question.
I don't think that that's a dumb question at all.
I
I
think
feel
it's a
like
good
the
question.
community really is super helpful and we all get along really well. I feel like we're actually probably a super chatty group and we think all the time that Chrissy's probably like, can you guys be quiet? But we have a group chat. We actually kind of have we have a full group chat with everybody in it. And we also have a group chat that we don't bother the people that have master's degrees with our school stuff. So we communicate pretty much all the time. I don't think anybody kind of hesitates to ask questions. And even now we're just about ending some of our rotations and we're going to switch over to the girls that did inpatient are done. And now some of us are doing inpatient going in with the same preceptors. So what resources that they use that were helpful if we have some of the same preceptors, what to expect, and all of that information we share amongst ourselves. So I think we built a really good community between us.
I would agree. I was like, it definitely seems like they have a good support system, which is nice.
Yeah, we
And
talk a lot.
you spend a lot of time with each other because, you have it's different because a lot of our rotations are here on site. So you come here more frequently than maybe some programs where you're going to more of the, places that aren't centralized like here. So you get to see each other more regularly. And I know sometimes in programs you may have interns in your cohort, but you maybe see them once a month. And so they see each other, 4 or 5 days a week, maybe on the weekends too, if they get together on the weekends. And I think they have a good support system that they've built. And it seemed to kind of fall into place pretty early. But I mean, a lot of the intern groups, because they spend so much time together, I mean, they do become good friends and they're in each other's weddings and all the things. And so it's nice to kind of see the way that they are able to rely and support with each other.
Thank you so much. I love to hear that. So thank you.
One other question I was going to touch on. Oh, let's see. There's some good ones. What do you? Okay, we did that one. What was the most memorable rotation that you've had so far, or was there a rotation that you're looking forward to? Anybody have a favorite that they've had so far? Or can't wait for one.
I feel like you kind of pull pieces out of every rotation that you go through of like aspects that you think are like amazing and things that will help you kind of decide what you want to do in the end, and like maybe aspects of the work that you'll pull out. Like some rotations, some of the preceptors have like remote work opportunities, things like that. If that's important to you, it'll help you kind of decide career wise what you want to do. I personally have really enjoyed the renal rotation that I was just in. I enjoyed renal in school, and it was kind of nice to see that it applied in the same way. I enjoyed it as much in school as I did here. But I think you kind of pull pieces out of each rotation, as you might not love all of it, but you'll love some of it. That's just like what comes to top of mind for me.
I have a question.
Okay.
I might have to hop off early also.
Okay.
It's a little loud. I'm at work. But I wanted to ask how many current interns are in y'all's cohort right now? And if you know how many qualified applicants there were?
Yeah. We have 7, and we had 32 applicants last year. And so we have 7 interns this year, or 7 in this current class.
Do you know how many get an interview?
32, we interviewed 26.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. One of the questions I did want to ask, and this is for the ones that just finished inpatient, it's some of them are still on, so I'll ask this one is, how is your personal experience working with the interprofessional team in the clinical rotations?
I didn't think it was a problem at all. I think the word doctor is pretty scary, but most of the people you're going to be talking to are residents, and they're students too. They're also learning. It's really not an intimidating environment just because this is a teaching hospital. They know that everyone's learning. So, yeah, I don't think that speaking with other IDT members is scary. And they're actually really helpful, especially the nurses are a big help.
Yeah.
It's not scary.
I really enjoyed it. I had a couple rotations that were much more in sync. Like when I did my ICU rotation, there's not as many beds in the ICU, so you have a much closer team. And I really enjoyed it. As part of the team, got to know me also on that. So that was really amazing to kind of fit into that, where speech would come find me, residents would know me, and we'd talk about patients. And I thought that was really positive. We all had a really nice, cohesive conversations, I feel like, in all my experiences.
All right, and then one of the questions I didn't answer earlier, and I saw this one up here, I wanted to make sure we touched on is how many do you have an even amount of dietetic internship only versus master's interns? I don't set an amount for like one or the other. There's not 4 and 4. It's really like everyone applies, and we kind of review all the applications the same, and we rank based on the applications. And so like this year we had 2 that had the master's already and 5 that are doing combined masters. I didn't want to distinguish like having like I only have 2 for masters and 4 for this, or however, dividing it out. I just kind of wanted to leave it because our program is only 8 students. I just wanted to kind of leave it open, so that way it's really, whoever applies. So maybe there might be one year that, there's no master's students that apply, and then we can still have 8 combined students. I didn't want to have any vacant spots if by declaring like a certain amount. And so it could vary each year, but this year we had 2 and 5. So it'll probably be different each year. Any other questions? If I didn't miss your question in the comments, you can unmute yourself and ask. How many interns do you expect to accept? So 8. I'm accredited for 8, so I would love to have 8, but I can't have more than 8. Sometimes we end up with 7, but I would love to have 8 for sure. Anybody else? Great questions. Isabel, do you have another question, or is that your hand still raised from? Or sorry, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I didn't raise it. That was my
Oh,
bad.
that's okay. I was like, that hand raise always throws me off. I'm like, is that a new one or did it not go down? It's like, okay, I think anybody else, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask, or you can always use the chat box. We're happy to answer any questions we can. I know y'all are coming up. You got about a month left until applications are due. So I know everyone's kind of looking through that, and reach out if you have questions. I'm happy to answer questions if you might have any that didn't get answered from this open house today. But if you come up with ideas, we'll be happy to answer.
I have kind of like one last question.
Sure.
I think it's more of a concern, but you kind of touched on this earlier. I would be one of those students that really didn't have a lot of time to volunteer in my undergrad or my grad because I worked full time throughout school, but you said you guys take that into consideration.
Definitely.
Okay. Cool. I do have some work experience too, like as a nutrition service aide in a hospital. So I'm hoping
Well,
that
that's
would be
awesome. Yeah.
helpful. Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No, and every student's going to be, I'm echoing. Let me fix this. Okay. Try to get the echo off, but every student's going to be different in their application, and we take that in consideration if they're athletes, or sometimes if you're in an athletic sport or something in college, you don't have as much time because you're practicing and doing all these things, or if you work full time. We look at what did they do full time for work, what kind of experiences were they able to pull from work that are going to benefit them in this position. So we look at everything, but it's not like you have no volunteer experience, we're going to cut you out. No, it's not going to be like that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Emily, I would also just want to add to, because I was one of the people who didn't have a ton of volunteer experience in my application. So just kind of how like Christy was saying, they look at everything. I would also encourage, if you didn't already plan on it, adding that in your personal statement, because that goes into that cohesive picture of you, because they can see why you didn't, and then you can kind of back that up to support it. Because for me, I said that I didn't have a ton of volunteer experience. I got some, but I did work full time, and then I had other things that I was doing that I made sure I um, was open about. And then I utilize that in my statement as well. So I would say definitely make sure you add that and explain why that you maybe don't have it so that they can see.
Great advice.
It also, like, it doesn't have to be nutrition related for you to talk about it because there's so many things that you learn in other areas of your life that can be applied into your internship. Like, I was one of those college athletes and I learned so much just from that crazy, busy, hectic environment that I really think has set me up for success here, even though I didn't have a lot of prior nutrition experience. There's always something that you can pull from every experience that you've been through.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah, me too. Even with like if you have roles that you had leadership opportunities in, or managerial roles and duties, highlight that stuff. I would definitely, talk on that. So kind of to piggyback off what Mackenzie just said too.
And you think about waiting tables and the customer service aspect and being able to, to problem solve and manage people. That's a big one too, because there's a lot of customer service aspects in nutrition. But you can think about, whatever it might be, maybe being a barista, or, working wherever it is you might work. Think about the skill sets that you learned for that job that made you be successful with that job, and how those are going to apply to your future. It could just be general time management, learning to balance, being, dependable and reliable, and those are all key factors. Y'all have had great questions. Anything else before we close out? Okay, well, I wish you all best of luck with your application. And again, feel free to reach out if you have additional questions. We're happy to answer any. And thank you for joining us today. And I said, good luck with your applications. And for those of you starting the semester next week, I said, good luck with your final semester. And hopefully maybe we'll see everybody in some interviews soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.